Hello, everyone. It's that time again. Yes, you're in tune to this is Salesbuildr Unplugged. We had a rebrand about 5 episodes in. Decided that coffee and conversions was a little too long to work with, and Unplugged was more fitting for the fact that it's kind of behind the scenes and a little rough around the edges sometimes. It's an important day today, 4th of July. So no one from the US is going to be watching this live, which is good. But maybe no one will be watching it at all. We'll have to see. But it is also election day. But to top that, we've got new content for you. We've got a great feature for you this week in terms of looking at onboarding and exactly what's involved. Whether you're using Salesbuildr or not, if you're thinking about using Salesbuildr in the future, it might be useful to know exactly the kind of steps that we go through to get you onboarded and getting the most out of the product. So hopefully a useful session, regardless of your background and experience. And then we have the highlight of the week, which is the tune of the week selected by our presenter. And basically we've got loads coming up. So let's just dive straight in. First off, we always do what's new at Salesbuildr. Yeah, we've got cheesy in-between graphics for everything, so you have to kind of get used to that. No expense spared. So this week at Salesbuildr, we put live a brand new video. So let me just share with you. If I switch to this view, or maybe I'll give you a slightly larger one. There's Bram too. Bram, how you doing? You okay?
Doing good. How about yourself?
Very good, very good. I'm going to bring you in properly in a moment, Bram, but just we'll have a quick look at what's new this week. So we've got a couple of new videos. I definitely recommend taking a look at some of the interviews we did from DattoCon. There's a really nice one. I'm going to play you a little clip with a customer called Joachim from Axsoft, who kindly had a chat to us about his experience with Salesbuildr. Here's a little clip from it.
To do every checkup by hand, or rethink about what you want to say in a quotation, or finding
every time.
Yeah, we have to do it over and over again, and we're an IT company, so we need to automate that. So in Salesbuildr we found that we could use standardization, but also connect into suppliers having live stocks, most current prices. So it really takes off a lot of work from our internal sales.
And we go on. So make sure you go and check that out. That's over on our YouTube channel. If you have a look, there's plenty of content there. And if obviously you're watching this already on YouTube, but if you haven't subscribed, make sure you do. Another feature just to mention quickly before we dive into the rest of the content, we have hopefully I'm going to try and get Martijn on next week, but we're doing a lot of work behind the scenes in terms of our sort of QA process and our development process, and really bolstering it as we're we're in a sort of scale up phase. So Martijn is ex-Acronis, and also has, if you have a look, his experience extends to also creating his own PSA computer cake, some of you will know. So we're in really capable hands there, and Martijn's working on the processes behind the scenes. So hopefully he can talk to you about the new rollout schedule next week for our kind of our releases. I'll see if I can drag him in.
Sure, he would love to.
Yeah, he's not got much choice. We'll have to just do it anyway. We'll just connect him live. Why not? All right. So before we get on with Bram's feature, we have our content of the week.
That looks like some really useful content.
So I wanted to highlight the MSP guidebook from CompTIA. Now, we were at a community meeting recently in Birmingham, and this got so Ian Groves from StarTech presented on this to the audience there, and it was really well received. So take a look at this. It's a totally free resource. It's one of the many free resources. I'm part of the CompTIA Exec Council just because I've loved CompTIA for many years, really enjoyed being part of their community, networking, helping each other grow, whether you're on the vendor side or whether you're an MSP. So I highly recommend taking a look at this.
I don't know if I dropped off or if what happened here.
Okay, Bram, I just left you on your own. That was great. It's never going to be smooth with a live stream. It just completely balks on me. So for those of you who
completely unsure if that was you or if that was me, actually. Like,
I'll blame you. All right, so I was just talking you through the MSP guidebook. So this is a totally free resource. If you didn't catch this already, free resource for MSPs. One of the many resources that CompTIA offer, and I really like this one. It went down a treat at the recent Birmingham community meeting because it talks about so many aspects of growing your business as an MSP. So as you can see, there's a bit in there about defining your ideal customer profile, uncovering your superpowers. That goes into some of the process-based stuff that we really like. Obviously, as Salesbuildr, we're all about automating everything you can, having processes for everything you can to free up your time. So that's a big one for us. But the bit I really want to draw your attention to is the section on QBRs. So I think this is a really good one. Everyone has their own way of doing QBRs, but if you scroll down, there is a nice section which outlines some of the questions you should be asking. And I think this is useful regardless of quite how far on you are in terms of your maturity with your sort of QBR. This is a quarterly business review. I'm assuming many of you will be familiar with that term. Some of you will run technology business reviews, but there's a great section in there. I'll make that a little bit larger so you can see it. And you can see there's a checklist, a nice checklist there. So highly recommend that. Great piece of content. And that is it for our content of the week. I'll put in the link for you in the chat in just a moment. But now it's time for our headline feature. Yeah, it's not going to get old, Bram. It's not going to get old. So
yeah, I love the little jingles. I don't know how we ever survived without them.
No, it's a wonder. So you're here for a reason, Bram. You're head of customer success, so you do an awful lot of talking to customers, and you're basically responsible for making sure everyone is happy and getting onboarded properly and maximizing usage from Salesbuildr. So that's what we're going to talk about today: is what's involved in the onboarding process.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk a little bit with you and the rest and everybody who's online today.
Good stuff. Okay, so listen, the idea is we're gonna go through. I think if you want to share your screen, you've got a kind of a checklist that you like to go through. So I think what we're going to do is just walk through this and kind of just talk around the different areas, because there's some really interesting stuff in there, and actually it's quite educational for me, as I realized in our 15-minute chat prior to the session. Actually, there's plenty of questions I would like to ask as well. So when you're ready, if you want to share your screen. Absolutely. By the way, let us know where you're tuned in from. It's lovely. I think we've actually got regulars now, bro. I think we actually have people who are coming back time and time again. So it's really good to see some of you in here supporting the session.
I'm just trying to get this screen shared. Give me 1 minute.
That's fine. So yeah, let us know where you're tuned in from. And if you've got any questions around onboarding, or you just want to let us know where you're at with your Salesbuildr journey, you don't have to be on any Salesbuildr journey at all. But if you are looking at it, if you are already an existing customer, let us know. Helps. And of course, you can just fire in questions. This is designed to be just an open Q&A as well as we go along. So feel free. Bram, shared your screen there. Great. Okay. So this is on our knowledge base, right? This particular document.
Yeah, so basically what happens is the moment that somebody joins us, then we share this little checklist with them. So this basically are a couple of things that need to be done before we can get the entire onboarding started. I always send out a little automatic email to the customers after they signed on. And then once they've completed this checklist is when I actually get some FaceTime with them and are able to start the onboarding with them. So I think it's good if we just talk a little bit through that.
Yeah, go for it. So where does it start then? So someone's signed up and they want to go. We want to go ahead.
Yeah.
There's some technical detail on this one, isn't there? But I think it's sort of from a high level, we don't want to go for every step.
Yeah, there is. Most of it is technical, so I'm just gonna go very high over. Just let me know at any given point if you have any questions, or if anybody in the chat has any questions about that, of course. So
excellent, will do. Hello, Coco 1961.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us.
So basically what happens is at the beginning, you need to launch your instance. So you actually need to spin up a tenant. You need to send us everything that you have at that moment, meaning not everything, meaning your templates. So just the way that you do things now. Obviously, at some points we can improve on that at a later moment, but it is always good to get started with what you already have. I will then transfer that into the portal that you just created and make sure that you at least have a little baseline and are able to send out quotes the exact same way as you were able to do so before.
But Bram, I'm not interested. I just want to go straight in and have the shiniest quote and all the features. Why don't we do that?
So what I usually see is we have a lot of, as you're saying, a lot of shiny things in our tool, a lot of different features that you can use, and probably a lot of things that you couldn't do before in whatever way you were doing quotes before. However, you just signed on with us, and I always think that there's a lot of things to be able to do at the beginning. And I would love to get started with that as soon as possible, making sure that a new customer is able to get started as soon as possible. And all of those shiny things can distract you from that. And I myself, for instance, have the bad habit of sometimes diving a little bit too far into the rabbit hole, and then I can get stuck with new things for like a month and just dive into that. Obviously, that's not what you want. You want to get started right away with sending out quotes again, and not get too hung up on everything that's possible. Does that make sense?
I can tell you now, it makes total sense. And I can tell you now, without a shadow of doubt, if I was left to my own devices, I'd be 2 weeks later in Canva, still prettying my perfect cover page, probably. So it's good that you're guiding us in that direction. It makes total sense.
Yeah. Like, what do they always say? Like, perfection is the enemy of progress, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the same here. Like, let's just get you started first, and then we can spoon feed like new things along the way. So, great. I got my screen again. Then after that, you need to request some of the credentials from your distributors. I'll dive a little bit deeper into that at a later point. The main thing as to why I always ask you to already request that at the beginning is just that some of the distributors can take quite a long time before they actually get back with those credentials. So I always say, ask those as soon as possible so that we can get things going again.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's a few steps to connect your PSA, whatever PSA you're using, or if you're using it standalone, you can skip this step. And a little bit of configuring your email domain.
It's probably worth mentioning there. So at the moment, we work with Autotask, ConnectWise, and Dynamics. We work with at the moment. We've got the Halo integration is planned, but not yet ready. So one of those ones, ideally, at this stage.
Yeah. And then the email domain configuration, that just makes sure that once you start using it, that you're actually able to send emails out from our tooling. And then after you watch a little bit of a training video, you can get the first call. Start it with me. So those are basically the steps that need to be done before we get that first call in. Now, during that first call, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into it. And most of the time, the onboarding consists out of 2 calls, with exceptions aside, of course. So the first call is usually just being able to make sure that you understand the basics of Salesbuildr and that you're able to send some quotes out along the way. The second one, you've already had some actual practice, and then there's usually a ton of questions that pop up after actually having sent out some quotes. And those are the ones that we normally cover in more of a free second session, and we dive more into the nitty-gritty stuff.
How do you cope with the fact that you have often multiple team members that are going to want to be up to speed on this? Do you tend to is it like a train the trainer scenario you go for, or do you sort of suggest people get a group of people together that will be using it? Or how do you tend to do it? It's just ad hoc?
Yeah, so it really depends on the size of the company and also on what it is that they want to do, right? So we have some customers that which usually go into the first onboarding just with 1 or 2 people from that company, and we set everything up. And then after that, they just roll it out to their sales team, and they're able to get that rolling. And then you have some bigger companies that have a complete marketing department, a complete different versions of sales departments, and those require a little bit more sessions. For instance, I would probably not tell the entire sales team how to make templates, how to make quotes, and all of that stuff. And I would probably take that up with the marketing team. So it really differs on the size of the company in how that would work normally.
Got it. But we are prepared to handhold the various teams and stakeholders within that onboarding process.
Yeah, absolutely. Like we need to make sure that they're able to get started in a proper manner, and that everything is set up once they actually go live and start making those quotes. Of course, I said at the beginning, I said that, well, perfection is the enemy of progress, but it does need to be a good environment before you actually go live, of course.
Yes, yeah, needs to be at a certain level.
Yeah, absolutely. So no, we do absolutely do a little bit of hand holding at the beginning and making sure that we guide people to get started with that. Yeah, absolutely.
Very good.
So then during that first onboarding call that I was just talking about, we would actually, during a call, go through a second checklist. I'll just open that one right now. And the beginning of this is also a few technical things remaining, but after that, it's going to be a little bit more of how to. So I'm just going to run through the technical stuff real quick, and then we can get into the more interesting stuff.
Mm-hmm.
See a little bit of overlap. The email domain we just covered already. A little bit of branding, meaning making sure that, for instance, if you have a certain font for yourself, you can add that. If you have certain colors or certain whatever that you want to put into the portal, then you can add that quite easily.
That's just literally, we're just talking about just the user experience for the internal staff there.
Yeah.
Just making sure it looks and feels like the company, like a company thing.
Absolutely.
Can you do logos and things, or what's the deal there? Is it just fonts?
Yeah. So here, for instance, if I open this one, this is just the demo environment that we have. So you do want to, of course, make sure that this also feels like a tool of your own, especially when you're going to be presenting this to multiple sales team. If you're a bigger company, then you kind of want it to feel like one of your own products, right? One of your own toolings. So yeah, it's not the most important thing on this list, but it's also a 2-minute job. So hey, why not, right? The next part, though, is a little bit of more importance, and that's this one, setting up the subdomain. So that makes it so that instead of a link like this saying demo.salesbuildr.com, for instance, that you actually get something on your own domain name. And the reason why I say that is important isn't just because it types easier on the top of your URL, but also that when you're going to send quotes to customers, that's going to be out of your URL.
Oh yeah, of course, because they're PDFs, but they're actually hosted. So when you send, they will get a link if they want to browse online. Well, they get a link anyway, don't they?
Yeah, so they're going to get. It's not a PDF because it's a lot more. Like you can do a lot more than you could do on a PDF, of course. Mm-hmm. But it's going to be hosted on a website, and you're going to kind of open that website, and it looks and feels sometimes maybe like an old PDF. But there's a lot more added into there, which is the difference from the PDF.
Yes. Yeah.
And yeah, of course, and a lot of our customers are always telling people to not press weird links and stuff like that. So especially if your end customer has never heard of something like Salesbuildr, then they might get spooked, of course. So you want to have that under your own name, under your own domain name, making sure that also your end customer knows that it's a trustworthy thing.
Yeah, very good point. Always thinking cybersecurity.
Exactly. So just going back to that list. Team members. So we actually work with a SSO. The moment that you as a company your people want to log in, if they use the SSO, they're able to log into this tooling as well. So there's no complicated signups or adding team members or whatever. Just everybody from your company is able to log in. And now we're going to get to the better stuff. We're going to go towards the portfolio.
Yeah, I like this bit. Isn't that sad? I do quite enjoy this side of things. It's a bit like having a clear out, isn't it? It's that sort of that therapeutic. There's a little bit of pain to go through.
Everything before here is just, most of it is just like a lot of technical stuff, like setting up, making sure that you have the right things. And now the thinking part that's on. And I see my dogs are getting riled up because they're also very excited about this. Apparently. You're always going to see that something like this happens right on a call.
I love it. I love it. It's brilliant. It's normally to me, so I'm really, really pleased actually. So Bram's got 2 corgis, and he was just telling me earlier that they've got attitude.
They do. They've got a little bit of an attitude, but that's apparently what it's supposed to be with corgis as well. So, yeah, you can't complain when you actually get what you signed up for, right?
You can't.
So now that my dogs have settled down, so the reviewing of the portfolio, meaning a lot of the times when you connect to a PSA, you've got your whole portfolio set up with, well, Autotask, ConnectWise, Dynamics, any of those. And those we just straight import into Salesbuildr. Now, we also have a little bit of a best practice on our end, which makes it so that sometimes what you had in the past will not be the best thing to start using into the future. And I just kind of want to walk through the best practice and why we've made that best practice in our tool, so that for anybody on the call, it becomes clear as to why we recommend just looking at that a little bit.
I think that's a really good idea, because regardless of whether you're using Salesbuildr or not, it totally makes sense to be going down this route in terms of trying to be as streamlined as possible. And I think it's fair to say all the best performing MSPs always have a very streamlined portfolio, and that's what we're trying to get to for numerous reasons we can touch on another time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like it's the name of the game here is also, of course, standardization and automation. And in order to actually automate, you got to standardize first. So here, I'm just going to show you the category structure that we made in our demo environment. One of the things you can see here is, for instance, that in terms of desktops and laptops, we made a structure based off of brands. So what we usually see when somebody connects to our environment is that the old structure just had one category of desktops and one of laptops, and everything just got pushed into there no matter what the brand was. Now, we recommend in our tool to split those apart. For instance, I have the HP laptops here. And if I were to click into that, you would see that we have a couple of add-ons in here. So I've got required add-ons and I've got optional add-ons. Now, this means that every time that I add an HP laptop to a quote, that workplace installation and a Microsoft NCE license are going to get added to that required, right? Then the ones beneath that are a docking station and a keyboard and mouse set. So the end customer is going to get a little checkbox in front of these, and they can decide if they want to actually add that to their quote or not.
So you can decide it's either optional or mandatory. Actually, I was talking to, in fact, it's in the Nostra, the Irish MSP. It's in their video case study on our YouTube channel. But they were talking about how actually sometimes it's not even about the upsell, although that's an important part of it. Actually, it's just it can be about making sure that the correct things are ordered as well. I don't know if that falls under this, but so things like cables. So if you turn up to site and there's a particular cable missing because it hasn't been ordered, what they were trying to achieve is they want a non-technical person to be able to pretty much quote for most things, because it will come with all the necessary parts that they need, and they're not going to rock up to site and create a bad impression because they've forgotten a piece that should have easily been listed as one of these add-ons.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like you want to make sure that is, as you're saying, is standardized. So everything that's supposed to be on there needs to already be on there. And it also saves you a little bit of thinking, right? Like when you actually quote something to a customer, you don't have to still think, oh, what should I add with this? Because that's where the real time is going to get burnt.
Yes.
And we're looking at like hardware quotes in this case. So every minute that you spend on this is more of your margin that you're just burning.
Exactly.
And especially on hardware, they're not as big most of the time, at least. The margins aren't that big anyway. So my goal is always with most of our customers to see if we can get the quoting again off the inside sales department, if we can get that down to anywhere beneath 5 minutes. Because above there, you're just cutting into your margins, and you really don't want that.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? Because there's two parts to this, which has become really clear, obviously, as I've spent more time here, is that you've got the sort of the MSP proposals for new clients, and they're often quite lengthy documents, but often where the time saving is those repeat smaller quotes, which are just for repeat items, and there's other ways we can help with that, but that's where it can really pay dividends to get this stuff standardized.
Absolutely. So that's why on this side, as I said, the HP laptops will have this docking station, this keyboard and mouse sets. And as you can imagine, the Apple laptop is going to be vastly different when it comes to those add-ons. So when I go there, you can see that they have these different keyboards and different mouse set up in there. So that is basically why we work with this category structure as we work. You can even expand on this more. You can add things like you can have one category have drop shipping and the other one going to the office for pre-configuration or something like that. You can set up a whole lot of those things as well. But I usually see that the time savings that they start with getting these categories built properly.
Okay, so you'd actually have, so for the laptops one, for example, you would actually have desktops and laptops dropship, desktops and laptops.
Yeah. So So for instance, I could say, I'm gonna dropship all the Apple laptops because they don't need pre-configuration or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make sure that the HP laptops get sent by my office before they get sent to the customer because I want to pre-configure them.
Okay. Yeah.
Just you sort of by brand. Like that. Exactly. So these are the reasons why you want to just at least think about the category structure. Obviously, again, as with anything that I'm saying, don't get stuck up on this and like spend days and days and days on this, but have a little bit of a thought about it. Set something up based off of what it is that you already do. So if you're already selling in a certain way, see how you can translate that into the category structure, and then build on that. You can always expand and make things better along the way.
So is this a good time to talk about the way this gets presented in a storefront, Bram, or is that later on?
So this is the basis of making able to get a storefront for everybody that is not on the that's on the call right now that doesn't know what that is, the storefront. Basically what we offer is a way to let your end customer order stuff from your storefront as like, let's say, an Amazon type of experience. And this is where it starts. So you basically have two and a half type of ways that I see how you can set up a storefront like this. One is basically a regular supermarket where you would kind of just say, oh, I have these products, and somebody can just choose from the products that I've put on the shelves, and the customer can completely decide what it is that they want to do. Then on the other end of the spectrum, you have customers that say, no, I want to make curated stores for every single one of my customers. And the reason why I said 2.5, because you also have a middle part in that where you kind of say, okay, I want all dentists to have this type of store, or I want that category of customers to have this type of store, and you kind of bundle them a little bit.
Can you have?
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does definitely make sense. Thank you. Does that, in terms of the, so let's say you had a standardized storefront for dentists, but you also wanted to offer another category to everyone. Is that possible as well?
Yeah, so you can definitely mix and match with that. That's what I usually see, where you'll have like a standardized set of products. So maybe something like things like cables, stuff like that, right? Things that somebody just needs, and that for everybody could kind of use the same type of stuff. And then next, or accessories, right? Like those keyboard and mouse combination sets that I was just talking about. And then if you know, for instance, that one of your customers only uses a certain type of HP, then for that customer, you set up one category with just the stuff that they always use. Or if you have a customer that always buys the exact same combination whenever they get a new employee, meaning they're always going to need a new Microsoft license, they're always going to need a laptop, a screen, a keyboard and mouse set. You just bundle that up into one bundle for them to just press, and then they just say, hey, I've got a new employee. They select that one, they quote it, and you don't have to go back and forth just because they have that one new employee. So it saves time for them as well, usually.
That's really powerful, actually. And I was speaking to somebody earlier on in the week, and they were interested in having a load of sort of kit that was, in storage. They wanted to try and shift. So basically, what they needed was like a special offers section. So that was always running for all customers. We've got a load of laptops. We're doing a special discount on them or whatever, and that could potentially be visible to everyone. So quite a nice little use case.
Yeah, that exact use case is something that I see sometimes as well. Like somebody that just has a little bit too many of something maybe on their shelf in their warehouse, and they push a special promotion to some of their customers through this as well. You see those things a lot.
Yeah, that's good.
So yeah, so that is the categorization and why it is important to just think about that for a minute, because it's really the foundation to go further with this. So yeah, you've got, it makes it faster when it comes to actually making quotes. At some point, you can start off your storefronts with this. So it definitely helps thinking about this for a little bit.
I think the really important thing here, the big benefit, is that you're going from taking a myriad of options from all your disties to distilling it down to just what the business wants you to be selling and what everyone should be selling. And you're basically working from here instead of necessarily going out to the individual disties and having to. There's also just like the cognitive side of it of, I've got to think about, okay, what exactly do I need? What's the availability? What's the pricing? Is that going to work out? It's having one place to go for it all, and therefore saving a lot of time, which is what the name of the game is.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So then comes the next step, right? We've got the category structure set up, so we kind of know what it is that we want to sell and in which manner we kind of want to sell it. But also, whenever we get a new environment in there, what I usually see is a lot of legacy products. So as an example, in this demo, if you look at this one is pretty cleaned up because I've got about 182 products, which is very little. Because of course it's a demo environment, but I've definitely seen customers that get added that have thousands, and I'm talking about like in the tens of thousands of products in their portfolio. When I ask them how much they actually sell, it's usually like around 1,000, but it's just all legacy products that they've sold in the past, don't really sell anymore, but definitely still get a little bit of take up a little bit of rent in terms of like headspace.
What's the kind of first step there in terms of sort of pruning it? What do you do? Do you just look for things that haven't been sold for a long time, or is it like an order you should approach that?
The one in terms of like what hasn't been sold in a long time is definitely something you can do, but not during this onboarding call, since we don't really have any history yet. So we don't really know when the last time is that it got sold.
Okay.
That is definitely something to do after you've used it.
So you do it as you go along.
Absolutely. During this initial one, however, I usually look at a couple of things. So one of the things that I look at is we've made some connections with your distributors. They give us back some data, and the moment that they give back that it's not found, then usually, I'm saying here usually, that means that the product is end of life. They're not going to sell it anymore. So from your perspective, you might as well get rid of it as well. James is probably lost connection again, but I'll just keep on talking about this side of things. So it usually means that the product is no longer supported by any of your distributors, so you might as well unlist them. Now, you've noticed when I said usually earlier, that is because there can always be an example where it isn't. That isn't the case. Luckily, we work with listing and unlisting instead of deleting. Meaning, if you ever make an error like that, or if, again, you've made a decision based off of the 99% of all of your products, and that 1% you need to reel back in, you can always do that because you're not deleting it. You're just pushing it away from all of your search bars, making sure that it doesn't fill up that headspace that much. as it did before. So yeah, I know you dropped off there for a second, James, but that is one of the ones. Being the what comes back from the distributors. Then I also see. Let's see, what else do I usually? So here on the left side, you see these filters that I'm scrolling through, right? These help you with that. So you can set up, for instance, I'm gonna go to all the products here and select all the products. Then I'm gonna select all the products that have no part number. Now, if they don't have an NPN number, then we're not really going to collect any data from any of the distributors. So those are ones that to always look at, I feel like, and be like, why are these still in here? For instance, there's a discount thing here. With our tooling, you have a separate way to apply discounts to your quote and actually put it on per line item. So it doesn't really make sense to have a separate product off of that. So it's always good to look at these and be like, hey, what are these products? Now, there's a lot of these filters that you can use to prune through your catalog and bring that down. Usually after we've done that with some customers, we find out that those tens of thousands of products get slimmed down to, well, at least 50% of that. And usually even 75% of it, we can just unlist right off the bat.
Excellent. Okay, that's good. And so you've got a bit of control as well, haven't you? So you mentioned about the discounts and things. That's the other part of the sort of standardizing, is making sure you have those sort of the margins, and that's one of the things that obviously you need to be careful of. There's no point in selling things for if the margins aren't right on them. So you've got some control over margin as well. Does that come in at the product level?
So that actually comes in both. First of all, on the category level, the last part that we talked about. So you're gonna usually say, okay, on these laptops, I want to have like a 20% margin or markup. You can choose within our tool which ones you want to use. And for instance, on the cables, I want to use about 100%. Usually the ranges that I see with this. Then if you look at the product level, you can overwrite that. And it's actually a good bridge that you probably unknowingly presented me with, because a lot of the times what I see when I hook on new customers is that they still have old pricing somewhere hidden in those products. So let me see if I can find an example in our demo. I should probably have one. So I'm going to select all products. I'm going to go down and I'm going to go to part number. I'm going to select everything that's available.
Okay.
And then there's a little filter here that says has explicit price or has explicit cost configured. Now, when I, for instance, filter on has explicit price configured, let me see. Let me try this MacBook over here.
I'm assuming it's quite rare you would want explicit price. Certainly not from something you're purchasing that could vary.
So usually what I see is that is kind of just the way that the old system worked. So a lot of our customers that, for instance, are on Autotask, that is just the way that Autotask worked, and it saved it as an explicit price.
Okay.
Meaning that once we pull it in, that is still in there. And we don't want to automatically delete it just in case you actually do need that price to be explicit.
Yeah.
But that is one of the things that we cover during the onboarding, making sure that the ones that you do want to be dynamic are dynamic.
Is that a best practice that you kind of, that anytime you go to produce a quote, it's pulling a price dynamically from a disti, it knows your margin, and then does either does the markup or
yeah. So
I'll
show you a little bit about how that dynamicness works. So right now, what you can see is a little grayed out text here that says from distributor 989. So if I scroll down, you can see that I've got a couple of distributors here. You can see the different pricing at each of these distributors and the availability. So right now, what my feed does is it looks at the cheapest price of the first available distributor. In this exact case that I'm presenting right now, there's only one that's available. But
do you set the priority order for those? Is that like something you define?
I haven't in this case, but you can. Yeah, so you can say, hey, I usually want to order from, like, let's say Ingram Micro, unless it's 10% cheaper somewhere else. Then pick another one for me. So that price will then be filled into this little thing over here. Then normally what it does is it looks at your category structure and it looks at the markup that you selected on that category structure and then creates a price. However, right now, this price is, as we filtered on earlier, is an explicit price, meaning that even though we set up a 20% margin on our category, it now becomes a 30% margin. So the customer ends up paying 1,300 euros. Now, if I delete this, the explicit price, by pressing this little cross here, then you can see that according to my rulings, apparently I was really generous with this category only selecting a 5% markup, but according to that ruling, it should only be 1,100. Now, you can think, why would I want that? In the earlier case, I was making a lot more margin. And even though that's true, it can also work the other way around. So you can also have an explicit price setup for, let's say, 900 euros, even though your cost is 980. Now that is a lot less interesting. Of course, you don't really want that.
Yeah, it sounds like a nightmare. If you got, I mean, keeping track of that stuff is just not what you want to be doing in your MSP. Really, I get the idea is trying to set it up and then not have to revisit it unless you decide you want to, adjust a margin rather than a price.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So that's why we usually want to delete those explicit pricing to make sure that you don't have to think about that it automatically looks at the cheapest price, and then it just looks at the markup that you've decided, and then it actually creates a price for you.
So this isn't applicable to things like sort of like the managed services. So we're talking about pulling hardware in from distributors here, but when you're talking about managed services that are, bundles and things that the MSP has come up with, that's a price that comes from the PSA, and that's just defined. There is no need to mark that up.
Yeah, that is true. Like, of course, sometimes the pricing of like managed services also change a little bit, but for your information, like these hardware, they can change on a daily basis, sometimes in extreme cases, even on an hourly basis, meaning you're going to want to be on top of these. Whereas from a services perspective, it takes a little bit longer for those prices to update. And usually the MSP actually agrees on like a much different or a pricing structure with their customers based off of those managed services. So you're working with completely different margins as well. In that case, yeah.
Interesting. Okay, good.
Yeah, that is the cleaning up of the portfolio. So at this point, you should have a decent portfolio of products that you feel comfortable as an MSP to sell to your customers and to be able to offer to your customers. Now, as you said earlier, you have a lot of times during the onboarding, they've presented me with some quotes. The next part of this is going to be to make sure that those products that we just defined and those rules and everything actually get put on a quote and presented to the customer. Now, there's also automations in that, like making sure, for instance, that every time that, I'm just naming an example right now, but every time that something like backup gets presented to a customer, there's also a little bit of text about the backup solution that you're offering that gets added to that, a little bit of content for the customer to look at, like those things.
It's like building blocks almost, isn't it? You can pretty much put together like spend a bit of time on this. I guess that's the benefit of having a reduced product set, is that you can actually spend some time making sure that you're really doing a good job of explaining both the products and your approach somewhere there in the document. But you can do things like embed video or have a PDF attachment or whatever, or product sheets, that kind of stuff. So
absolutely, and those are those granular things that I've been talking about, like that you can do after this. So everything that I've set up until now are things that should be the basis, things that will set you up for success at a later point that you just need to have in order so that you can build on those. Then afterwards, you can do things like, as you're saying, add maybe a video about the offering that you have, or you're going to add a little bit of text explaining again on how often you provide those backups for your customers, or you can start
testimonials, even like testimonials sometimes relating to those.
Yeah, testimonials. Something that I see that a lot of our customers use within this is also choices. So within a quote, you will, for instance, add a single choice or a multiple choice field, so that the end customer can actually choose: do I want this laptop or do I want that laptop? Do I want an i5 processor or do I want an i7 processor? Assuming you have an end customer that actually knows the difference between them.
Yes. And you can kind of explain it a little bit in there as well, can't you? That's the thing. You can kind of put notes in there and things. So, okay,
Yeah.
cool. So we're talking
I think-
templates then. So yeah, let's have a dive in, shall we? Let's have a look at how they actually look.
Yeah, so I think I can yap for like hours on the template part. So I'm going to keep that very short and simple as well, if you don't mind, because otherwise we'll be sitting here tomorrow still.
That's fine. I think I think there's going to be a separate one on templates. I think we definitely can't do that justice.
Yeah.
Really,
What I think I'll show is just the way that I usually see things in terms, again, because most of what we talked about are actually those very simple quotes, right? So I think I will talk about that simple quote and not about a managed service quote, because there's a lot more that comes with a managed service quote. So I'll just quickly show how I usually see things to be set up on that simple quote. Is that okay with you?
That sounds good. I think we'll do a creating the perfect managed service quote another time. So also, by the way, if you're watching and you've got some ideas and there's things you'd like us to cover, I mean, we do just go sort of, well, there's all sorts of inspiration, but often the knowledge base or questions are asked. That's where we get our ideas from for these sessions. But if there's anything you'd like us to cover in a bit more detail, chuck it in the comments and we can make it happen.
Perfect. So we're going to create a new template. We'll call it test. You can see that I've put up a localization right here. So I can choose if you have different languages that you offer to different clients, then you can make a template based off of a language. This mostly dictates the variables, like am I going to call it 4th of July, or am I going to, in Dutch, say juli? There's a difference in there, of course, in terms of variables, what we use. Are we going to use VAT, or are we going to use, again, in Dutch, like BTW? There's differences. So I'm just going to make this test one. Now, there's absolutely nothing in here except for a cover page right now. And again, we're talking about a very short, very simple quote. So in this example, I'm actually going to even remove the cover page, because my goal in here is to make sure that the customer receives a quote, sees the product, and is able to approve right away. So every template consists out of little building blocks. It's like little Lego bricks that we add in this template. So at this little plus icon, you can see the different bricks that we have. With this, I'm just going to go for content, which is text, which is images, stuff like that. So there, I've dragged that in, and from now on, it's inline editing on the left side. So usually what I see is in here, a customer types in something like quotes prepared for. And I'm just going to make that into a heading. Now we're going to add in a variable. See, I got to refresh because I just added the block just now. So there we go. So I'm going to pull in a variable, and I'm going to get the company name. And then beneath that, and now I'm just going to, just based off of time, I'm not going to find every single variable that normally gets added into there.
To choose from, isn't there?
Exactly. So I would probably say something like, and then it already says for company name. Then I'll use company address. Then I'll use the contact.
Bram, can that pull in a logo, just out of interest, from a company profile?
No, not yet. But we do have a feature request page, and I do think I saw it on here not too long ago.
Okay.
Getting a little bit of traction in here.
I'm
So
going
for
there now.
everybody in this call as well, the feature request board, we look at that a lot of times where we see what we prioritize on our roadmap. So if a lot of people decide that they want to pull in logos on a variable manner, then we put that on our roadmap. It's a complete democratic system. Yeah.
4 votes so far. 4 votes, people.
You found it? 4 votes? Okay, so if anybody here in the call thinks, hey, that's something that I want, give that enough votes and it becomes a little bit higher on our priority list.
Whether it's actually going to impact your bottom line or not, I don't know, but it'd be nice just to be able to pull that in. And yeah. So the more personalization, the better.
Yeah, I agree. So again, there's just a very little intro here with just the details, maybe a PO number, something like that. And then very quickly, you're going to do an introduction. After our conversation of the other day, I would like to present this quote to you. Of course, you probably already have a little bit of a thought as a company on what you want to have added in here. But my tip on these things is always keep it short. The customers already, 9 times out of 10, they're already expecting the quotes. They know what they're looking for. So keep it short, keep it simple, and then continue. Then if you could pull up that thing again, yeah. Then usually what I see is right after that is where the products are going to end up. Right over here. And then beneath that, you've got a very short, like terms and conditions page with just the simple stuff, right? Like the rest you'll probably pull in a like in an attachment or something like that. Or is it here? There you go. But over here, you usually want to say something like, okay, it takes a couple of days maybe to ship it to you, or this quote is still applicable for the next 7 days, something like that. And that is basically it. The customer doesn't want, like, usually they don't want, for these, again, I can't stress this enough, for these simple quotes, they're not going to want to receive like a 30-page document every time that they want to order a laptop. They want to look at the laptop. They want to say, yes, that's what I want. Maybe add that little docking station that they want, and then press approve on the bottom end.
Just a simple, professional, interactive quote with acceptance.
Yes, and absolutely, you can still make this a little bit more interesting by adding a header and a footer and a little bit on the background and a little bit more design to make it feel like it's the quote of you. But again, keep it simple.
Love it. That's really good. Thanks for walking us through that. Obviously, we could do a lot more with the quotes and templates. Like I say, I think we should go back and cover that. So
yeah,
hopefully that's given you a bit of a
service
taste.
Session. I think we can go a lot deeper into that.
We will.
Points, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. No, made a note. That's going to have to be one of the upcoming weeks. So, all right. So that's templates then. I'm conscious of time. Any more on the onboarding process we can squeeze in, or have we covered the key areas?
These are the key areas. When you have this set up, there's one top topic that I forgot, and that's when you send out a quote. It's also going to use an email template. So
yes.
9 times out of 10, you're going to want to set that up as well. But same rules apply. Keep it simple. It doesn't have to be a big email. Just, hey, after conversation, the quote you can find on this page, stuff like that. But if you have this set up, then you're well on your way to actually start quoting. And then, as I said at the beginning, then you're going to try out a few quotes. You're going to see how they flow into your PSA. You're going to experience that a little. And then in a second onboarding call, most of the time they have a ton of questions for me, and we'll go through those. We set everything up on best practice. But what I've learned being in the MSP space is that even though a lot of the customers do the same type of things, everybody does things a little bit differently. So there's always going to be a few options that you're going to have to do different for this customer and do different for that customer.
Yeah, wouldn't it be easy if it was all cookie cutter? But that's not the case. Definitely not.
Would will make my life a little bit easier, but it really isn't like that. Yeah.
Bram, thank you for that. That's been really good. Hopefully everyone's found that useful. If you've got any questions, feel free to get them in. Part of these sessions is that it's quite nice for, I think, for people we're working with, the prospects, customers, just to sort of get to know a little bit about us and to sort of get to know us as people. That's one of the powerful things about video. So one of the ways we like to do that as well is to introduce, we have a special feature, Tune of the Week. So Bram, you've selected our tune of the week. Do you want to let us know the significance of this particular track, and we'll play it for the masses. This is an opportunity as well. Sorry, just to if you've got any questions, you want to think about any questions you want to ask us. This is kind of the period we use to where you can do that, get any questions in, and we'll answer them after the track.
Absolutely. So when you asked me for a significant tune of the week, I was a little bit stressed because I love music. I listen to music quite a lot. So picking one song seems like an impossible task for me. So I kind of semi ignored your request, and I went for something that I'm just obsessed with right now. So the song that I picked is actually a song of Willow Smith, the daughter of Will Smith and Jada Smith, and she is Smith, right? She is, I think.
Yeah.
And what I found so interesting about this is that some of us know her from, I think, somewhere around 2010 when she had a little hit with Whip My Hair Back and Forth. If you can still remember that one.
Yes, I do actually.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. And now she pops up back into my feed, and I was like, okay, this is a totally different artist, and this is a totally different style that she brings with her. Now, as I said, I love music, so I'm going to keep this short before I ramble on for the next hour about different forms of music. But what I found so interesting about this is that about 97, and I'm not even kidding, that's the actual number, 97% of all the music that's played on radio stations and pop stations and anything like that is written in the same structure. I'm talking about like a 4x4 beat. Now, there's only a select few songs over the years that have made it to the charts that have a different beat signature. And this is one of those that has a different format, which is, I think, 7x4. And it just makes it a little bit different than you're used to. And I kind of like those things.
Love it. That was a brilliant explanation. Give me a moment, Bram. We'll bring it in now. I think the best way to check it out is to get it on screen.
Absolutely.
Pushing and peeling myself out of my disguise. Looking at you now, I'm wondering who am I? If I could try to take you back, I couldn't define. Feeling absence of time, knowing all is decided. There's nothing here left to find. The story's all in my mind. Pushing and peeling the layers that cover my mind. To the shadow, now I notice the light. Magic is real when you see it inside, you decide. It's like a snake shedding skin, creating life to begin. And all you knew has vanished again, transcending virtue and sin. Fix my eyes on all the things more beauty is a symptom of life. Gotta decide if I'm gonna see it now.
Hey, go and check that one out. That was really good. And I've listened to that like 3 times now because you gave it to me and uploaded it and all that sort of stuff. And it's really grown on me. Genuinely, that's a great track. Very, very catchy.
Yeah, it's one of those ones that's like at the beginning. As I said, like I was just interested in how it worked and like the technique behind it, and then it kind of sticks with you.
Brilliant. Thank you, mate. Listen, I'm going to let you go. I'm going to go straight into the next section. Thank you for that. Obviously, we'll see you next week for Bram's top tips, which is a slightly more condensed version of what you've given us this week. But appreciate you being with us and sharing all your knowledge. Thank you very much.
We'll talk to each other again soon.
which leaves us only with the events listings. It's what we always end the show with. If I tried to list all of the events in terms of webinars and things, it just would not happen. So these are the main industry events globally that we've got on our list, on our radar. As you can see, we've got ASCII coming up, quite a few US events, Cybersecurity Expo in Manchester. The big one I want to draw your attention to is CompTIA. So we'll be there. Anything you see in orange is always where we're going to be. So CompTIA, ChannelCon 24. It's an amazing lineup, and we're going to do a preview on our YouTube channel. So make sure you're subscribed, and you'll get notified of any of the any live streams we do, and you'll find out about them as they're happening. Just want to say thank you so much for joining. Keep an eye out for any questions. If you've got any last questions, you're more than welcome to get them in. If not, we'll draw the stream to a close. Actually, on time for once. I'm keeping an eye out. I know your time's really valuable, so appreciate you being here, and we'll see you. Don't forget, same time every Thursday, we're here, and we'll look forward to seeing you, hopefully then. Brilliant. Thank you. Right, no questions coming in, so take care, and we'll see you next week. Bye for now.